Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with you all here in such a new and sparkly venue. I'm going to kick off with a bit of history. On the 13th of February, 1888, so we're going back quite a long way, even before some of you were born, the first print edition of the Financial Times, the friend of the honest financier and respectable broker, rolled off the presses in London. Our motto then and now is without fear and without favour, which sounds old-fashioned, but has real meaning in our capricious markets today. 125 years later, in a world of immediate 24/7 news and what looks like unlimited sources of information provided by many of you in this room, the FT remains a truly global news organisation whose journalism is respected for its authority, integrity and independence. The balloon you see behind me, I hope, yep, there, isn't a metaphor for all the hot air expended by FT staffers around the world. I suppose, actually, because if it was, it'd be much, much bigger. It does, however, reflect our practice of trying to rise above the clamour of everyday events to gain perspective, meaning and context, which goes to the heart of the FT's proposition. This is what provides value for our global audience of more than 2 million readers daily. This is what helps them shape their business and investment decisions. When the FT was launched 125 years ago, we were 1 penny a copy. And I don't have the algorithm which tells you how much that is in today's value, but it's probably about the price we charge in Singapore, Singapore dollars 50, although I hope probably it's a lot more. The font up there is too small to read, but I assure you the front page bears very little resemblance to the one you might read today. The leaders or the editorial comment are there, along with stories on speculation in the coffee market, problems in the Tory party, a run on shares in the Great Northern Railway. There's a letterbox, or feedback from readers, the shipping news, an article on the health of the Crown Prince of Prussia, and a sad little paragraph over on the side about a nun who was hit by a tram. So we have highly opinionated content on politics, business, markets, travel, and the royals, plus some ambulance chasing. You know, it's like a blog without the football stories, which makes me think that our ancestors were probably a little bit ahead of their time. For most of the FT's life, we focused on bringing domestic and international news to a UK audience. In the 70s, the FT greatly expanded the network of foreign correspondents and launched our first international edition in Frankfurt. Since then, we've expanded the FT's global reach to about 5 print and 6 digital editions. Our international circulation overtook UK circulation in the late 1990s, and almost 80% of our audience is now outside the UK. So that's the bulk of our revenues. We have 600 journalists in more than 35 countries, with several new positions established recently in the big growth markets here in South and East Asia. A big chunk of our global audience are senior executives at MNCs, as well as the C-suite of the elaborate infrastructure that supports them. The bankers, the lawyers, the accountants, the government officials, the advisors, the consultants. My fellow speakers this morning from Volkswagen, Diageo and Manchester United represent this flowering of influence and a quest for new markets. I will check later if you're all subscribers, okay. It's rare for any company to be consistently successful enough to survive for 125 years. The best brand names can be swept away by competition, by complacency or new technology. And right now, digital technology is moving like a whirlwind through traditional publishing, shaking many venerable brands out of their comfort zones, while many more just aren't making the cut. At the FT, we may be an old dog, but we know the value of learning new tricks. Extending geography isn't a problem for well-funded publishers. The tough ask is expanding across new platforms and developing the new revenue streams. According to research from Burson Marsteller, the internet population in the Asia-Pacific region, for example, is already about 2 billion strong. And a big slice of these users will use mobile devices to access news and media. In fact, at the FT, 1/3 of our page views now come through mobile devices, and I think this reflects the mobility of our C-suite audience. Nearly half of all online spend goes to search advertising, and publishers face intense competition from portals, networks, and social media. Our playground has been disintermediated, and sometimes that really, really hurts. Facebook's page views, for example, are now 1,000 times greater than the biggest news publisher sites. And if they hadn't already, news publishers are facing up to the reality that online advertising isn't replacing revenues lost from print. It's just not a neat debt for equity play. When FT.com launched a paid-for metered access model in 2007, many of our competitors were headed in the opposite direction, and critics called us short-sighted for choosing to swim against that tide and focus on content over advertising. They said, build your audience and the revenues will come. But sophisticated global print publishers already had an eye-watering cost base. We have more than 20 print sites. So some of us took the decision to charge and be damned. The FT is a niche product which has value at work. Don't just take my word for it, because a subscription is tax deductible in the US and in many other jurisdictions. We believe that changing from a print to a digital format would have little influence on readers' desire for FT journalism. Online or in print, our content is valuable and people pay for it. And that's why we like to think that we have a platform-neutral approach to our business. And luckily, we seem to be right. Readers have not stopped loving us, and in fact, they are willing to pay for multiple formats. Compared to the massive audiences boasted by many websites, the FT numbers look a little bit smaller, but with what have I done with my stuff? But with low distribution costs, the return from digital subscribers is very attractive. In a region as vast, varied and complicated as Asia, digital has become the only way to expand our footprint, considering the fast-growing cost of paper, ink and freight. At the same time we started playing hardball with digital subs in English, we turned our attention to China, where regulation meant it was impossible to bring our pert pink print product into the market. Digital was our only way, so in 2006 we started a Chinese language site, which is about 60% translated copy and 40% original content. It was the first foreign-owned Chinese language website, and that first mover advantage has meant we've never looked back. We have more than 2 million registered users, and while we depend on advertising and conference revenues at the moment, we are looking to introduce a corporate subscription model by the end of this year, so watch this space. Today in English, we have more than 600,000 subscribers globally, and in 2012, we had some landmark developments because content sales overtook advertising and digital subscriptions exceeded print for the first time. So we're kind of just flipping over on that balance. The core of the FT's success in Asia, and the rest of the world for that matter, has been our unwavering belief in the value of our product. It's not a model every publisher is following, but it offers a sustainable future and a chance for the FT to still be talking about crunches in global markets and the health of European princes in another 125 years from now. So, with a couple of introductory remarks just about what we're doing and us as an international brand and how we're expanding here in Asia, I'd like to swap now and introduce you to some of our speakers that are coming up after me. But before I introduce Paul, our speaker from Volkswagen, I'd like to invite you to consider our first poll question of the day, which I hope is going to be popped up here. Yeah, that's great. So, in the next 5 years, what percentage of multinational brands will have their global headquarters in Asia? I wonder what the answer is at the moment. I don't know. So please log in and make your response. Now, the answer for that will come at the end of the first session this morning.